Geralt of Rivia. You know him, right, sweetie?
Yeah.
The legendary witcher from the School of the Wolf, skilled with crossbows, alchemy, sign magic, and of course, the sword. But as someone who constantly gets into scraps with both beast and man alike, how good is the Butcher of Blaviken at good old fisticuffs? Pretty good, actually. In the Witcher games by CD Projekt Red, Geralt has a history of knocking people out both in street fights and in a pugilist club or two, so he knows how to throw a mean fist. In most of the games, at least. Let's take a look at all three and focus on the three aspects of Geralt's unarmed combat. His stance and footwork, his technical execution in both striking and defending, and lastly, how well he can combine these. Sounds good?
My sneeze disappeared. Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. We'll be starting with The Witcher 1. Released in 2007, the first Witcher was more on the role-playing side of the action role-playing genre. The combat, although not as clunky as some might claim, isn't really focused on unarmed fights. First we'll look at the stances and footwork. Geralt's got a nice bounce to his step with a little bit of back and forth when standing still, but as soon as he moves, he starts to cross his legs and otherwise move them way too close together when stepping, making it hard to respond to incoming strikes.
Amateur.
It's not always a huge no-no, but you gotta know why and when to do it. Otherwise, it's a pretty clear sign to anyone who does combat sports that you don't know what you're doing. His stance looks like when you tell someone you practice combat sports and they start mimicking how they think fighters move. You know that? Like, you do boxing, huh? Like, you know? And then they try to do like the alley shuffle and like double jab and just embarrass everyone in the conversation.
Like me.
No, you know how to punch.
Yeah.
He keeps his hands super low. Keeping hands low itself isn't really all that bad if done on purpose, as it helps with movement by lowering the center of balance. But with his chest leaning to the front and side, he brings his head closer to the opponent. With his hands low, it leaves him pretty open for punches. Just like crossing your legs when moving, you gotta have a reason for doing it. You gotta know the rules to break them, right?
Yeah.
Geralt's offensive abilities aren't that much better. All his punches are swingy, and he leaves his guard open on every single one. Only strikes that don't make me puke are his jab, nut kick, and this sort of like almost karate style straight. And all these you get only if you get both the fist fight and brawl upgrades. The jab is pretty lazy looking, but it does its job, which is to gauge distance and establish your own rhythm while disrupting the opponents. The nut kick is just a good old-fashioned front kick to the dong. Although crude and unsportsmanlike, it surely gets the job done. And this weird, kind of like a oizuki or lunging punch, is maybe the only punch that goes actually straight. 3 strikes out of his whole moveset that don't look like absolute dog water is not good. It's actually pretty bad. Then his blocking. There's one block. And it's bad.
I thought it looked pretty good.
Well, he goes super low and covers his head with one arm and the other blocks his body. The body blocking is kind of useless when you're already ducked that low and you leave the other side of your face wide open.
Okay.
Maybe you could argue Geralt doesn't need to learn how to block since he can just use Quen as a shield instead, but that's lame and dumb, and I won't allow it. So, how well does he combine his stance and footwork with offensive and defensive techniques? Well, he doesn't. At all, really. When Geralt stands still, he could almost pass for a beginner, but as soon as he moves or strikes in any way, it all comes crumbling down. Constantly dropping his guard to punch and forgetting his stance. Sometimes in a finisher, Geralt tries to do like a switch step to seem impressive, but just look at this.
He just jumps.
Yeah.
Just like boing. That is not a switch step.
Yeah.
Not at all. He just jumps up.
Yeah.
Whee!
I'll give The Witcher 1 Geralt 1 out of 5 wolf medallions. Yeah, that's good. Can't really say anything other than
Your mother sucks dwarf cock.
to this one.
Yo.
That was terrible. Let's move on to Witcher 2. The Witcher 2 Assassins of Kings was released back in 2011, and by god is it an improvement compared to the original in terms of hand-to-hand combat. There's still a lot of weirdness and kinks that Geralt needs to sort out to get his pugilism on the same level as his fencing.
I got a couple of kinks you can work.
Shut up! There's two aspects to Geralt's unarmed combat in Witcher 2. The standard combat without weapons and the Fight Club quick-time events. In the standard combat, Geralt's stance is a bit better than in Witcher 1, but not by much. His hands are low and he's slightly hunched over, swaying around, something close to maybe like Shorinji Kenpo or Jeet Kune Do. Moving in this stance is just basically walking, legs cross each other all the time and no guard at all. How about his striking then? Here Geralt has a jab hook combo and this thing.
What the fuck is that? Haymakers.
Yeah, this might be even worse than the first game. Also, when taking an enemy down from behind, Geralt has this like neat little elbow strike. Not the most powerful looking thing, but would probably knock out an average guy. Now the Fight Club quick-time events on the other hand are a big improvement. In these, Geralt demonstrates some solid fundamental striking with low kicks, knees and push kicks, straight punches, elbows and hooks from different angles, actual head movement with both slipping and ducking, nice counters, and even some ground and pound.
That's crazy.
That's crazy, ground and pound. In my fantasy? Crazy.
I do fantasize that you crown and pound.
Jesus, shut up! A few good examples here. He steps over a low kick and counters with a low kick of his own, followed it with a push kick to the back. Another one is how he ducks under a wide swing and delivers a shovel hook to the spleen. Pretty nice.
Yeah.
And here he counters a shoddy tackle with elbows to the back and then a knee strike to the face. And finally here's a takedown leading to a mount where he controls the opponent's arms while delivering devastating hooks and ends it with a downward elbow.
Nasty.
Very nasty. And effective. There's a lot of stuff here, so I won't go over every single move he has available, but I think we got a pretty good look at what he's capable of.
He's very capable.
Very capable. If we completely forget the standard combat since there wasn't much to look at, and instead just focus on these quick time events, Geralt seems like a pretty decent fighter. Not a lot of footwork to be seen since they're a static over-the-shoulder situation. The stance is pretty much the same as in the overworld. I'd raise the guard a little bit when working this close to the opponent. If we want to be super general, we can divide fighting stance into 3 parts. Unengaged, striking distance, and grappling distance. When you're unengaged, it's fine to drop your guard since you have the time and distance to react to incoming strikes. While in striking distance, your guard should be either up or purposefully down to maximize mobility. And when grappling, it doesn't really matter since both your hands are probably connected to the opponent already. But overall, the stance is fine. Relaxed shoulders, elbows close to the body, and a bladed stance for a narrower silhouette. Geralt shows competence in both striking and takedowns with solid defensive techniques to boot. He also combines these well with the different counters. His striking is still pretty rough with some really swingy punches, but that's to be expected from someone who doesn't really do all that much unarmed combat. With the spinning elbows and joint locks, he kinda looks like someone who just picks up tricks from getting into brawls without training unarmed fighting itself. Still, the base is there, and he's really improved in the time between The Witcher 1 and Assassins of Kings. Witcher 2 Geralt gets 3 out of 5 wolf medallions for his hand-to-hand combat. If I could add one strike, it would be to bite his balls!
What?
Now for the crown jewel of Witcher games from all the way back in 2015, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. The Witcher 3 is a lot more on the action side of the action role-playing than the first one, and less linear than the second one with a huge open world to go through. Mirroring that, the unarmed combat has more action and freedom than the previous iterations. Now then, how is his stance and footwork? Holy shit, he keeps his hands up. Instead of the Shorinji Kempo style stance, he's got a proper guard now. Hands up, lead hand further in front while the rear hand is close to his cheek. A proper boxing stance here. As a nice addition, he does these little open-handed probes with his lead hand while idle. Good shit. Really good shit. Master. His footwork is solid, keeping the width of his stance appropriate the whole time while moving. In some strikes he does kind of a stepping side change due to too much forward momentum. That's fine if done on purpose. If not, then it's just bad technique. What about his striking? Jabs, crosses, uppercuts, hooks, knees, back fists, front kicks and a Superman punch? He's got them all. Some heavy strikes are super wide, but at least they come from a good stance. I'd still prefer them a little tighter, but still, it's so much better than the previous ones.
It actually looks like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. And defense? Geralt has a sturdy guard with his forearms blocking the face while keeping his chin down. He can also parry and create distance with this little push. And to top it off, Geralt has a nice dashing dodge to all directions. What about combining all these? Well, we don't really have any kind of combos in Witcher 3, it's just solid single strikes. But I'd much rather see technically good and varied single strikes that come from and flow back into proper fighting stance than sloppy combos with shitty technique. Geralt in Witcher 3 looks like a proper kickboxer who has a few neat tricks like the Superman cross and hook and 2 different flying knees, but otherwise relies on good fundamentals, sharp and precise strikes, firm defense and no-nonsense footwork. I wouldn't be surprised if in the 6 months between Assassins of Kings and Wild Hunt, Geralt decided to completely rework his fighting style and joined a K1 kickboxing gym. For Witcher 3 Geralt, I'll award 4 out of 5 wolf medallions. If he could just flow from one strike to another without returning to his basic stance between every single strike, he'd be golden. I'd also want to see the low kicks, head movement, takedowns and their defense from Witcher 2 with this Geralt's technical prowess. That would possibly make him not only competent in just striking bouts, but in a mixed rules fight like MMA too.
Hell yeah.
That was Geralt of Rivia Unarmed. Great stuff from the 2 later games. The first one was... Geralt is one of my favorite fictional characters, and it's nice to see that although swords and sign magic are his main form of fighting, they didn't completely ignore his unarmed combat. Let me know in the comments if I missed something crucial here. Also, big thank you to Larza for getting me the footage for Witcher 1 and 2. You're the man, thanks. Which game moveset was your favorite, honey?
I gotta say it's the third one.
Yeah.
Golden Boy Geralt for the win.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you for watching.
Bye!
Bye!